Angela Hill looks to become the winningest fighter in women's strawweight history this week. And I feel like every time I talk to you, I say this, and then someone ties the record, and then you're right back on the horse trying to become the winningest fighter again.
Yeah, these these girls keep fighting. I'm trying to, get a nice little lead next time, get a nice little, leave them behind a bit. But yeah, this would be a great fight to win. I think it means a lot too, aside from just the amount of fights that I have, but just means that I'm still a person to look at in the division. And yeah, I'm excited for it.
Before we started rolling on this, we were talking about fighting at the Apex, where this card takes place, and the differences in mentality fighting in that venue versus a full arena. So walk me through that, because you've had a lot of experience with both.
Uh, the arena definitely feeds your energy. You don't have to gear yourself up. You don't have to get amped up. As soon as you walk out and you see all those people there who are there to see you, that gets your energy up. And with the Apex, it's a lot different. It's like a lot of people who fought amateur. It's like the difference between doing a fight night or doing like one of those tournaments where there's five rings in the middle of gymnasium, and only your teammates are really watching. So it feels kind of like that, like more intimate, but also it's harder to get going because you don't have that big wow of, oh my God, look at all these seats, look at all these people when you walk out there. So that's something I've actually been working on, just getting my mentality uh, in the same zone as it is in an arena, trying to bring that to the apex, and hopefully I can use that to get going a lot faster in there.
Yeah, what kind of tricks do you have to kind of artificially simulate that experience?
Just checking in with myself, making sure that I'm at that level where I feel like, oh, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to punch someone in the face. I'm not. I don't have to wait to get punched to realize that, oh, I'm in a fight. So just a hard warm up. Having my corner hype me up, walking out there when I walk out, just keeping the game plan in mind, and just making sure that I keep my energy level up, as opposed to just being like, oh, that's it. That's kind of the feeling. Sometimes when you walk out to the apex, you're just like, oh, yeah, it's only 30 people here.
I saw you on your podcast, Two Straws, which is available on UFC Fight Pass. Yourself and Jessica Pinay, your number one training partner. You're talking about the energy in St. Louis this past weekend and kind of lamenting that you're not going to have that same energy this Saturday.
Yeah, it was wild. I watched an energy fight, Charles Johnson, and the amount of people there just going ooh and ah every time something happened was awesome, and especially because he's from there. So it's really special to be able to fight in your hometown, and especially to fight on a local show when they show up for the first fight. I got to fight in San Diego a couple of years ago, and that was awesome too. As soon as I walked out, I felt the crowd just pumping me, just pushing for me, screaming my name, and it's a lot different when you have thousands of people just all there for you, as opposed to just a small section.
It seems like the UFC are planning on going away from the Apex. At least that's what Dana White said recently. I guess on Saturday said that the investor call is starting to say that sort of thing as well. And you look at the results from this past weekend; it was the highest grossing UFC fight night in UFC history. And we're not talking about incredible headliners. You got Derek Lewis against Nascimento. So it feels like the appetite in these underserviced markets in the US for fight night cards is really strong right now.
Yeah, everyone wants a UFC card in their backyard. It's hard to plan and to travel for a lot of people. But if it's nearby, if it's in a state nearby, then you can drive there real quick, do a day trip, come back. And I think people really show up for that. They want to see the first fight. They want to get their money's worth, see the first fight to the last fight. And whenever you go locally, you get a lot of people who have never been to a UFC show before, never been to an MMA show, or just seen live fighting in general. So I think it's a smart move. I think you're always going to break the box office no matter where you go. San Diego always sells out. I feel like, where I'm from, in Maryland, if they had a show out there, DC, I went to the DC show once. I forget when it was. but but I regret not being able to fight on that, and I didn't get the call to fight on that either until like maybe a week before the fight, and I was already too fat to to get into a camp. But I would love to fight in my hometown or something like that, and I think there's more of a chance of that if UFC does more shows. Like it doesn't even have to be the exact hometown. If there's a show in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, if there's a show in Georgia, my family's gonna drive down to see it. So I think it's better for everyone, especially for the American fighters.
I just hope if they have it in Virginia again, that the commission changes their. So the commission, I don't know if you know this. The last time they had a fight in Virginia was the headliner, I believe, was Figueiredo against Benavidez, and they had this
Oh,
weird rule where the judges had to submit their scorecards up until like whenever the fight ended. So like let's say the fight ended at like 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the second round, they would still need to submit their score for the round, even though there was a finish in that round, which is very weird. So I'm hoping
huh.
that they do away with that.
Well, it didn't affect the fight, did it?
No,
Or
but
like a
there,
finish?
there's a scorecard on record. It was T.J. Brown against Jordan Griffin, and Jordan Griffin choked T.J. Brown out in the second round. And there's like a scorecard that you could find where T.J. Brown won that round on one of the scorecards, but in that round he got choked out, which is just, in my opinion,
It's
is a pretty bad
weird.
look.
I mean, that's on the judges. They should have known who won the round if if they got choked out.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, but I think they were tasked with scoring round up until the finishing sequence, which really, again, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So hopefully they do away with that, but I digress.
Yeah, that's
Let's
weird.
talk Luana Pinheiro, your opponent this weekend. I think this is the kind of fight that you love. I think that Pinheiro is the type of opponent that is going to think that she can outstrike you on the feet and will stick with you on the feet for as long as the fight lasts. But we've seen a lot of opponents underestimate your ability in that regard. Is that the way that you think this one plays out? Is that most of the time you expect this to be taking place on the feet?
we'll see. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna try to flow with it, see what happens. But I expect her to come out just as hard as she comes out with everyone. She kind of flows with it too, like she stays on the feet until she gets her hands on someone, and then she tries to toss them and get points that way. But I haven't really seen her ground game in tape, so I don't really know what to expect there. So we'll see. After the Dern fight, I've tried not to expect too much from a fight. It can go the exact opposite of the way you play it in your head. You can be winning in areas you don't expect. You can be losing in areas you don't expect. So I feel like she's gonna come out hard, and then that's the type of fight that I love because there's less filling out process. There's you get into that flow state a lot faster just because you're in a fight. You don't have time to think, you don't have time to overthink. You're just working and going, and then all the training and all the muscle memory comes out in the fight.
How does that impact your preparation? If you don't want to get too consumed with their strategy and focus more on your own strategy, what do you do in order to make sure you don't get too carried away with looking for answers to the kind of puzzles that that particular fighter is used to putting in front of an opponent previously?
Yeah, like you still have to do that. That's still one of the chores of preparing for someone well. But when it comes down to the meat of my fight camp, it's more so what am I good at and what can I get better at, and where can I exploit this person, and every person going forward. So it's less focus on them and what they do well, and more focus on me and what I do well. And then the answers are built into there too. Like I have reactions that I've worked on, uh you know tediously, just for this person, but also for everyone who has a hip throw, for everyone who has judo throws, and everyone who comes forward really hard and really aggressive. So it's just perfecting those techniques that I already like to do, that I'm already good at, and I know I'll do it without my corner calling for it. And yeah, just being prepared for whatever happens, being prepared for the chaos.
I mentioned your podcast earlier, you and Jessica Panay. Now, what has made you guys such great friends, aside from, of course, being training partners? But you guys have all these great videos on Instagram where you're doing kind of different skits and bits, so to speak, and you have your podcast that you guys have so much chemistry on. What is it about Jessica that you think has made her such a good friend?
We just known each other forever. We met on Tough, and every time I think about how long ago Tough was, I'm like, damn, I'm old. But we met on Top in 2014, I think is when it filmed. And yeah, it's been 10 years now. I ended up flying out to, or I ended up driving out to Alliance MMA after Ultimate Fighter just to get more female training partners, and she was one of the ones there. And we kind of hit it off on Tough. We hit it off once I got there, and the rest has been a wrap.
Yeah, that was one of the more dramatic seasons of the show. It seemed like there was a lot of like
That's it.
almost factions within that. At least that's the way it was presented on the show. Like there were kind of like factions of fighters on that show. It seemed like.
Uh, I don't know. Like no one was peeing in the other person's food or busting down doors. I guess the female version of drama is different from the male, but I don't know. I think they really exaggerated the drama because a lot of people just kind of kept to themselves. A lot of they might have there might have been like a little spat, but that was in between a lot of moments of us bonding and hanging out and getting along and sharing our stories with each other and stuff. So I felt like there was a lot of sisterhood that kind of got left on the cutting room floor because no one wants to see that. Fight each other, tear each other's hair out. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like when it comes to gross stuff, at least that didn't happen.
Well, we learned something today. You can't always believe everything you see on reality television. I was just taking it all face value personally for all these years.
Oh man, well, let me tell you.
Well, Angela, thank you so much for doing this. Best of luck against Luana Pinheiro this Saturday.
Thank you.